The zoning commission meeting, Parish of Ascension, is called to order. We're at the, let's see, let me read this. We're at the council chambers, first floor, 607 East Worthy Street in Gonzales, Louisiana. It's August 13, 2025 at 6 o'clock. The members are all present and in attendance. And Ms. Banker, please, introduction of staff.
Jamaica Banker, Zoning Secretary.
Jerry Iscari, IT.
Spencer Long, Parish Attorney.
Eric Poche, Director of Planning and Development.
Tim Bullion, Senior Planner.
Lance Brock, Zoning Official.
Okay, thank you all. The first item on the agenda for discussion or action is the minutes of the July 9th, 2025 Zoning Commission meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Scheck-Snyder. Second by Ms. Unitas. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Chairman's comments. I don't have any comments. Mr. Scheck-Snyder already made my comments at the last meeting. That is, we have two items that are on the agenda that have been removed. So the next item on the agenda will be 6C. It is a zoning review ID PZ 3726.25, Tract Y for Baker Donaldson on behalf of AT&T. It's located on the east side of Dutchtown School Road, approximately 450 feet north of Louisiana Highway 74. It is to request a conditional use permit to construct a new telecommunication tower. Sir, if you would, your name.
Hi, good evening. Chip Lyons, 201 St. Charles Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, here on behalf of the applicant, AT&T. So AT&T is requesting construction of a 125-foot monopole, single-pole cell tower at this location. In this zoning district, towers and in a number of other zoning districts in the jurisdiction, towers are conditional use, require conditional use approval, so that's why we're here. We also need one setback waiver for the tower based on structures that are located on the property where the tower is located. The tower meets all setback requirements from structures on adjacent properties. So when AT&T or other carriers are looking to construct new towers, the first question that comes up is, okay, well, why? Why do we need a tower at this location? So copies of these maps are in the materials that we submitted, but what this map shows is the current, and this is AT&T coverage, current coverage in this area based on information from AT&T's network engineers. These are other existing towers, and then this is the proposed location. In the colors on the map, red actually indicates the best level of coverage, which is going to be in-building coverage. The signal from your cell phone is a radio signal, so it gets blocked by wooded areas, by buildings. If you're in an elevator, that's why you lose bars. So red is in-building coverage. That's is the best level of coverage. Yellow is going to be in-vehicle coverage, and then green is going to be generally outdoor coverage. Now, it's possible that you could be in a building in this area and still get a signal, but it's not going to be nearly as strong as areas that are marked in red. From a public safety perspective, almost very few houses, if any, have traditional landlines now, so people are using cell phones for work, for school, for entertainment, and also for making 911 calls and related issues. So what this shows is right now in this area, there's going to be spotty in-building coverage. If you build the tower, if the tower is approved and constructed here, you get in-building coverage in the immediate area, which would include the schools right there and also several of the developments and other uses in the area. So what the carriers are trying to do is that has been an exponential increase in data demand from people, both through the number of devices that people have and the number of devices that people have and what they're using their devices for. So it's not just calls, it's streaming movies, it's making presentations, it's Zoom calls, it's all the different things that people use their devices for. So the need for the tower in this particular location is because of data consumption and data consumption demands in this particular area. When AT&T or others look at siting a new tower, the first thing they do is look to see, can they put their antennas on an existing tower in the area and still have that work? There were no towers in the area that work within AT&T's existing network. And the issue is, it's, you know, a little bit like a Goldilocks analogy. From a tower perspective, if you're too close to an existing tower, you're going to have interference. If you're too far away, you're going to have drop calls. So what AT&T and the carriers do is they'll establish a search ring. Sometimes they're a half mile. This one's actually, I think, about 1.5 miles, which is actually pretty large. They establish a search ring. The site acquisition team goes out, they look at properties, they look at the zoning code, and they say, where can we go in this area? They have to find a willing property owner. They talked to, I think they looked at about, at least, they looked at more properties. They talked to at least 5 different property owners in the area. This one worked on this particular property. The property, the tower's placed right in the middle of the property to keep it as far away from other properties as possible. As I mentioned, the setback waiver that AT&T needs is from existing structures on the property, not from any structures on adjoining properties. The tower itself is 125 feet high. It's about 160, 170 plus feet away from Dutchtown Road, and at least 180 feet to 200 feet plus from residences on adjoining structures. So the reason for the tower I've gone over. So the first question is, why are you here? Why do you need a tower here? Then the second question, or second set of questions, go to that people often have go to tower safety, right? So here we're putting in a 125-foot steel monopole with a substantial foundation. The towers are designed, and most zoning codes have a requirement where your setback requirement is going to be tower height and usually a buffer. So in this jurisdiction, it's tower height plus 30 feet, I believe. So that puts us at 155 feet on a 125-foot tower. The codes are based on the assumption that if a tower comes down, it's going to come down like a tree. What current tower technology is that towers, monopoles, and other ones are essentially designed with a sort of fail point in it, so that they're built to all applicable code requirements. They're not designed to come down. But if something happens, the tower essentially is designed to bend at a point higher in the tower, bend but not break. So we have a fall letter from a licensed engineer saying that this tower would be designed with essentially a 0-foot fall radius, so that if wind load was exceeded, the tower would bend over, it would not come down. And based on the location of the tower, even if it did, and that's not supposed to happen, it still would not affect structures on any adjoining property. So that's a structural analysis. People, and I mentioned earlier that a cell phone is essentially it's almost like it's an advanced two-way radio, for lack of a better term. It's a radio signal. There are a lot of, people have questions about radio frequency technology. So the first issue is that no studies show that there's any connection between the RF signals from a tower at 125 feet and any adverse health effects. And that's been studied by World Health Organization, National Cancer Society, lots of different independent entities and lots of different governmental entities have studied it. There haven't been any showings that there's any adverse health effects from a tower at that height and people on adjoining property from a tower at that height. So that's sort of the first and most important issue. Second, from a legal perspective, the regulation of the terminology is RF, radio frequency emissions from towers, is essentially exclusively with the Federal Communications Commission, with the FCC. And the reason is that in order to have a national network of cell phones that works, is that the idea is that there needs to be a single standard set by the federal government, as opposed to having individual jurisdictions having authority over it. Because if you do, you could have different standards from town to town, parish to parish, et cetera, and then you wouldn't have an integrated system. So regulation of RF emissions is exclusively with the federal government and the FCC, and there's federal law, the Telecommunications Act, that says that cell towers, depending on where you're putting it, may need zoning approval. So the federal law preserves the jurisdiction of boards like yours as to zoning issues, but the federal law also says that a local zoning entity can't deny a tower based on claims of adverse health effects or adverse environmental effects. And the reason, again, is not to, it's not to say, not to take power away, authority away from you, but the policy reason is to have one single uniform national set of regulations that affects those issues. And AT&T and other carriers, of course, all design their antennas to comply with the FCC and federal law on those issues. So that, I think covers the reasons for the ask. I think based on what we submitted, the application of the proposed tower would meet the conditional use criteria set forth in your telecom ordinance and in subsection U. It's not going to have adverse effect on adjoining properties. There are a number of studies that show that towers don't have any adverse effect on property values. It's designed in a way so that it's not going to create a safety hazard. You're not going to have it'll get constructed, but once it's constructed, it's generally unmanned. It doesn't create traffic conditions. It doesn't create the issues that you guys often have to consider when you're looking at a conditional use application. So for those reasons, I'd respectfully request that you guys support the condition, vote in support of the conditional use application. And of course, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So being that this is a conditional use, this is our decision is a decision as opposed to the recommendation to the council for their approval or denial. I just wanted to go ahead and mention that. Thank you. All of your information was very, very helpful, I believe. We'll probably ask you some more questions in a moment.
All right, thank you.
I'd like to go ahead and open a public hearing. That we have, it appears we have some people that would like to speak. So
Yes.
when you do come up, I'd like you to provide your name and your residence, your domicile, where you are, where you live. And remember that you have 3 minutes to speak. At 3 minutes, we're going to shut down the mic, and your time is up. If you're in the middle of a sentence, of course, we'd like you to finish the sentence, but not necessarily finish an essay. So, we'll be reasonable in that regard. Sir? Yes, sir.
Just in terms of the tower design, it's a monopole, it's 125 feet. There are wooded areas, I think it's not going to be, if you look, you will see the tower, but there are wooded areas on 3 sides of the property that I think will help provide some natural screening. So I wanted to mention that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing on item 6C, zoning review ID PZ 3726.25, track Y for Baker Donaldson on behalf of AT&T. Anyone?
Yes. I have James Greenwald III. He's not in support and wishes not to speak. I have Melvin Ray. He is not in support and wishes not to speak. I have Matt Calfo. He's not in support and wishes not to speak. Pamela Bernard. She is not in support and wishes not to speak. Robert Ned. He is not in support and wishes not to speak. And then June Jing. He is not in support and wishes not to speak. All right, and then I have Craig Kraft. He's not in support and he wishes to speak.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Craig Kraft, I'm at 13033 Eagles Way Court. My property is directly adjacent, so I did get the certified letter. on the 6th. Number of things. One, a mention of no health issues. The American Academy of Pediatrics website shows over 25 case studies that show there are direct health effects, especially to people that lived under these things and go to school. This is directly over the primary middle school of Dutchtown. I have 2 kids, one in the primary, one in the secondary, or one in the middle school, and my wife's a teacher at the middle school. None of them are happy about it. So talking about the 155-foot buffer zone, the packet that you have was back in early '24. There is now a carpool road that Dutchtown has put that falls in that buffer zone. So at any given time, there are families, children, and vehicles in that buffer zone. Also, there's a Pee Wee football team that practices there, and they are under that buffer zone. The notification process, I feel, is flawed. One letter goes to the school board in Dutchtown with no need to notify all the students and families that go to that school. There's a number of different things. He talked about property value. There is a number of studies that I also have that indicate anywhere from 5 to 20% drop in property values when you're underneath one of these poles. The code 172034 in the application talks about should not cause diminished depreciation value. It will. The HUD now requires surveyors to indicate if there is a cell tower there, which would indicate that there's an effect on property value. Tend to preserve the property of the community. The community doesn't have to be notified, just the property adjacent. So all of these issues are more than just a property adjacent issue. There's a generator that's attached to this,
30
diesel generator.
seconds.
Okay. So there's going to be fuel there as well. So my biggest problem is that I hope the commission votes no on is that this is a lot bigger issue than cell service. I have AT&T and I don't want to drop any bars. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I have Cody Abear. He's not in support and wishes to speak.
Cody Abear, I live at 13015 Eagles Way Court, adjacent to tonight's proposed AT&T cell tower construction. I'm asking all of you to vote no against the rezoning of this residential property for the tower for several reasons. The first and most concerning is that recent studies show an average of 9.78% decrease in property value for homes within the tower's visibility. Furthermore, the same study found that 90% of potential buyers expressed decreased interest in homes near cell towers. These findings by the Environmental Health Trust will directly impact all 26 homes that will have to see this tower when driving through and living in the Dutchtown Hollow subdivision. Secondly, I'm asking you to vote no on the rezoning due to the fact that the named landlord of the property in which I live adjacent to their residence is clearly unfit to be a landlord. The property in question has 2 abandoned and crumbling greenhouses, 5 abandoned buildings, overgrown bushes and trees, that is the tree line mentioned. Yet we're to believe that they are fit to be a landlord to a property that AT&T is simply renting for construction of this cell tower. I fully support parish growth, infrastructure, and moving the parish forward. This rezoning does not simply do that. I'll leave you with this, with one question. Could you honestly say you'd vote yes for something that diminishes your property value and your property beauty? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And before we call the next person up, the first gentleman that spoke, you had some studies. Do you mind giving those to Ms. Banker so we can put those into the record, please? Good, thank you, sir.
I have Brian Bernard. He's not in support and wishes to speak.
My name is Brian Bernard. I live at 13085 Eagles Way Court, which is not, it's within the 500-foot range. My concern's a little bit deeper than just the actual tower. Technology changes. We didn't have this 15 years ago. Didn't have it. So what's going to happen when we start getting signals from the satellite where we don't need this tower anymore? If you take the lease that they're proposing, this is only a 5-year lease with 17 5-year options. I did leases for commercial property for a living. So in 5 years, AT&T, this huge company, can walk away from this tower, and the landlord is currently not fit to be a landlord. We've already discussed this. Now, so in 5 years and 120 days, AT&T can walk away. The only reason why they'd walk away is because that technology is no longer relevant. So guess what? They're not going to take the expense of taking this equipment down. And now it's not being maintained by AT&T. It's no longer viable. They're not going to take it off the property. So now we really have an eyesore with this current landlord. The other thing is, as it goes into the 150-foot radius, that property goes into Dutchtown Ascension Parish Schools property. That will encumber them building any additional outsourced buildings on the school property. Because from the information that was sent out, it's not current, it doesn't have the driveway, as Craig said, but it also overlaps, 150-foot bias goes into Dutchtown's property, Dutchtown School District property. So if they ever wanted to build anything, they'd have to take this into consideration. So with that having been said, we'd respectfully ask you to decline this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have James Flanagan, and he's not in support and wishes to speak.
Good afternoon, James Flanagan, 13040 Eagles Way Court. I'm really here for 2 reasons. I think my neighbors have already given you some really good reasons why not to approve this. I have two reasons I want to talk about. One is real practical, and the other one's emotional. The practical reason really is the waiver for the regulations. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised by the request, and I would be surprised if you guys actually allowed it, primarily because those regulations are there for a reason, and to protect the public as well as the parish itself. If the technology has changed, as AT&T has said, that's fine. Change the regulations and allow it that way. Don't waive the regulations, because if something were to happen, then the decision to waive it would obviously come back to this commission for that decision. So I would recommend that you not approve it for that particular reason. Instead, change the regulations. Make that a different way to approach it. The second one is the emotional aspect is my house actually faces where that tower will be, and there is no tree blocking that. In fact, I get some amazing western views at night, and it is spectacular. And that's going to go away if we throw up a 120-foot cell phone tower. I got to go back to my kids and my wife and explain why in the world we got this tower there. So, like I said, practical, emotional, that's my arguments. Please vote no for this.
Thank you. Jamaica?
Thank you.
We're gonna have Heather Padgett, and she's not in support and wishes to speak.
Hi, my name is Heather Padgett. I live at 12307 Old Mill Drive, across from Dutchtown on 74. My children attend Dutchtown Primary, and Please consider another location for the cell phone tower. There are over 500 kids at this primary school and over 600 kids at the attached Dutchtown Middle School who share the same property. These kids are spending 40 hours a week there, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who does not want the effects from the cell phone tower to potentially damage these kids' still developing bodies. I do not believe that there's been enough studies that cell phone towers this close to the kids is safe. I have no power or persuasion over this matter, but just as a mom advocating for her kids, I want to attend this public hearing and express my concerns. This proposed tower sits within 500 feet of these kids' classrooms, cafeteria, playground, and outdoor physical education spots. I understand the need for cell phone towers, but surely there are other locations that can be considered for the area. Geismar is a medium to heavily industrialized area. Could there be a better site further down Highway 73, closer to the Highway 30 area of Geismar, not so close to the heart of Dutchtown, where there's thousands of kids daily at the primary, middle, and high school? I also understand the need for balance, but I do not believe a cell phone tower this close to a school is appropriate. I did a little research today on the distance of cell phone towers to the primary schools in Ascension Parish. Majority of the primary schools are at least an eighth of a mile away from a tower. There's only 2 primary schools that are 2/10 of a mile away, and that's Spanish Lake in Geismar and Donaldsonville Primary. Please do not make Dutchtown the 3rd school. Decades of scientific research have not established a firm connection between cell phone towers and health issues. We don't know if it will have ill effects or not, but I sure as heck don't want to find out years down the road. Also, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, in recent years, concern has increased about the exposure to radio frequency electromagnetic radiation emitted from cell phones and phone station antenna. One study confirmed concerns that living near mobile phone base stations increase the risk for developing headaches and memory problems, dizziness, depression, sleep problems. Short-term exposure to these fields in experimental studies have not always shown negative effects, but this does not rule out cumulative damage from the fields, so larger studies over longer periods are needed to help understand who's at risk. So please consider not approving this proposed project site, and please find a better suitable location not so close to our school. There will be hundreds of families that will be affected just at the primary school location alone. I don't know if everyone understands how close this tower is to these kids. Dutchtown Primary would be the first primary school to have a tower this close to them in the parish, literally in their backyard. We love our school and our community, and I do not think this is fair to our children. Some of the families cannot just up and leave if this tower gets approved. Please think of the young children who will be exposed to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Lauren Briette, and she's not in support and wishes to speak. She's not in support and wishes not to speak.
Okay.
And that is all that signed up.
Okay, so public hearing on this item is closed, and I'd just like to take this minute to say, I appreciate all the public comments. A lot of people did reference studies, but there was only one person that actually brought studies. So I'm going to suggest to you and to those who may be watching, if you're going to reference a study, give us something so that we know that there's a study. Not that I think you're lying, it's just, from the standpoint of evidentiary, it's nice to have it, right? So, sir, would you like to come back up? I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask. One is, I did. Yeah, close the public hearing. One question I have is, that was a point that was made, it's a 5-year lease, 17 options, and the question was asked, well, what's going to happen to the tower in 5 years if AT&T decides to disappear? Mm-hmm. Is there an answer to that?
I mean, so AT&T carriers generally remove their equipment from a lease site at the end of the term because they don't want to leave it there for liability and other purposes. And I was also looking at your ordinance. A lot of times, local jurisdictions also will have ordinance provisions that require removal of a tower if it's no longer in use. So that is, that's an issue where and agreed, acknowledge technology changes, but these towers are, costly to install and construct, and so it would be unusual for the carrier to just say after 5 years we're done. They generally exercise the leases, stay there for a while, and when the leases expire or terminated, they remove their equipment.
So, Mr. Brock, is that covered in our ordinance, the demolition? of-
Yes, sir, the removal of abandoned towers is in the ordinance. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Good, thank you. So that's addressed. And then there's, you're asking for a waiver relative to a setback from buildings on the property.
Correct.
And some of the public comment was that all these buildings are abandoned. And so, rather than a setback, why not demolish the building?
Well, I think one of them, and I know one of them is a mobile home that's on the property. I believe that mobile home is occupied. There are some other structures on the property that aren't occupied. And from a lease perspective, AT&T is the tenant. They take on the responsibility of maintaining the property, maintaining the access drive, maintaining their compound. So I think, yeah, if, to the, AT&T will be a good tenant on that property, and will maintain its area in proper condition per the terms of the lease and per local ordinance requirements.
Okay, before I open it to the other commissioners, you have anything else that you'd like to say?
Yeah, and thank you, and I appreciate the comments. I think in terms of the issues that came up, again, I think that in terms of, this board has the authority to grant waivers if proper, based on proper showing, and I think we've submitted based on the fall letter and other factors we've addressed this evening. I think we've supported that request. In terms of the setback, again, whether it's AT&T or anyone else, we go based on what's in the ordinance, and what's in the ordinance is setback from, it's not from property lines, it's not from the road, it's from structures, and again, we're more than, I think, 160, 170 feet from the road, so there's no, as I mentioned, even if the tower came down as a tree, which it's not supposed to, it's not going to affect the road right there. And so, and again, in terms of property values, we have, we didn't get one here, but we could. We just did, but we will, in my experience, when we can go and get an economic impact study for a specific property, we've done it several times before, and those economic impact studies show that the presence of the tower does not have an adverse effect on adjoining property values. We're happy to go get one here. We hadn't taken that step yet, but it's certainly something we could do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Schexnayder? You might as well stay, because there are going to be questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
No,
Mr. Schexnayder.
I got a few questions, and some of the things are based off of the items that you said. Obviously, members of the audience had questions and concerns about health issues, and you mentioned that we're not allowed to have health issues and are concerned in our decision. Mr. Brock and Mr. Long, is that true? Are we allowed to have that, those concerns in our decision-making process?
It doesn't state anything like that in the code, so I don't know. To answer your question, I
Okay.
do not know.
Mr. Long?
I just rechecked. I don't see anything relating to health issues.
So,
I can-
so it doesn't prevent us from having that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I would say that it's an obligation, whether it's in the code or not.
Okay,
That would be my opinion.
that's kind of what
And
I
I
feel.
think that from the commissioner training we've had, that seems to be something I remember from the commissioner training.
That we have an obligation.
So
Number,
just very quick, you're saying that we have that duty to
It's not-
consider public health and safety?
It's not in the ordinances,
Or not in-
Right, it's,
but we have considered health and safety and some other votes previously. Yes.
Okay.
so, yes, sir, Mr.
yeah, so it's
Mr.
not
Tripp.
going to, so it's not in the ordinance, but it's in federal law. And so
federal law.
that federal law is going to control over, and so it may be silent in the ordinance on this particular issue. I know on, in other contexts, it is things you cover, but federal law says that it's not allowed, and I can provide a citation to that specific provision, and happy to discuss it as well. So that's in the Federal Telecom Act, that's not a factor that can be considered.
Okay, I just was curious. The second thing is, somebody had mentioned a few times about property value. As far as I'm aware, and Mr. Brock, I'm asking you as well, are we allowed to consider people's positive or negative effect in property value in our decision?
I'm going to refer it to legal.
Legal. In my opinion, I've been told, and from as long as I've been doing this, we're not allowed to consider positive
Well,
or negative aspects. So can you
Under
correct me?
17-2043U, it states, let me get back to it, hold on one second. General criteria number 2, the permit, if granted, will not cause any diminution or depreciation of property values of any surrounding property or will not alter the essential character of the locality. So that is under the general criteria for something to consider.
Okay, so we are allowed to take that into consideration?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The other thing, Mr. Lance, you did say that we have it in our ordinance about if there is an unused tower that the carrier is supposed to take them down. Do we have any record of that actually happening in the parish?
Not that I'm aware of. I know in the past, there have been some towers taken down, but it wasn't based on, this particular.
So they've just probably reused
They
the tower for
reused-
other
oh,
purposes?
Yeah, or they took it down to do something else with the property.
Gotcha. And then the last thing, the only other concern I had is, yes, I drove around a good bit today, and, I did notice quite a few places where we did have some towers that were pretty darn close to schools, so that did open my eyes about things, so, you've given us a lot to think about. That's the questions I had.
Okay, Mr. Clout.
So, as far as the health effects, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but there's a bunch of studies out there that say there is health effects. Some say there isn't. My main concern has to do with what somebody brought up is that there's open property for the school there, and if the school tries to build other structures on their property, it's gonna fall within that range. So that's my major concern with it.
Yeah, in response, the school is aware of our application. We've been in communication with them. There's certainly nothing preventing, the tower is 160 feet from the property line, so I don't think in terms of the property on the other side of Dutchtown Road that the school owns, there's nothing preventing anyone from constructing, right up to or right next to a tower. So I don't think that, and this is an issue that does come up. The fact that you have a tower on a certain parcel, and if this board approves a waiver, and I know the issue came up before, you guys aren't, something goes wrong, it's on AT&T, it's not on you guys, right? But if you construct a tower on a property, there's no provision that I'm aware of in the zoning ordinance or in the building code that would prevent anyone from building anything wherever they want on adjoining property or even on this property. You have a zoning ordinance that says if we're constructing a new tower, this is how far back we have to be. We're asking for a waiver on that based on structures on this property, but this wouldn't affect anyone's ability to build on adjacent properties.
So in your opinion, the tower can't be built close to a structure, but a structure can be built close to a tower?
I think so. I don't think from a building code perspective, anyone would be
Okay.
prohibited from doing that.
Okay, thank you. Randy, anything else?
No.
Mr. Villa?
So, as far as AT&T goes, the coverage there, you mentioned earlier that there's coverage, but it's weaker signals so there's a signal there. Do you know how many customers AT&T has in that general area?
I do not have that specific information. I know this is there are a lot of subdivisions in the area, and AT&T, it's kind of a balancing act, because if AT&T could put a tower in the, and there was no one within 5 miles of the tower, that would be, that would be easier to do, right? But the reason that that they have to go where the demand is, and the demand is where the people are. So they look at this and they have both an engineering process and a prioritization process. So they've looked at it, and their conclusion is that based on the coverage there and the number of customers, and I don't have the exact number, they need to improve their coverage and capacity in that area.
Okay, so, and it's not a matter, so you don't know that number. I guess you wouldn't know how many complaints they have about drop coverage or anything in the area.
No, I don't have that information. I could certainly request that information, but I do know that AT&T, AT&T is a big company, but they have budgets, they have priorities, and they're gonna go through this process if a site has to sort of get to the top of the list to get a new tower, and so they're gonna look at both existing coverage issues and also anticipated growth in an area and growth of demand and capacity in an area. So they go through that process, and they're not just sort of, all those factors weigh into their decision to construct a new tower, and they're not going to construct a new tower if there's not a demand for the services in that area.
Right. Okay.
Anything else, Mark?
No, the only other thing I was gonna say is, these towers, I don't see them taking them down. Technology moves fast, and these devices in our hands continue to get faster where it demands these networks to put up new equipment. So the future of new equipment going on these poles is the unknown. There's already 6G and 7G out there, talks about it, but there's no known data to the public about how strong is that signal and so forth. So I don't see the pole coming down. I just see it as an expansion in the future for them.
Yeah,
to take down 5G and put something else
Yeah,
up.
and that's a good description of what the process has been, is that the pole goes there, and this pole has should have, I believe, room for 2 other carriers, so others besides AT&T can co-locate on there, which makes the process more efficient, so you're not constructing as many towers. You get multiple carriers on a single tower, and basically the tower is effectively infrastructure, right? And so AT&T is making an investment in infrastructure. They'll be on there, presumably other carriers. Once the infrastructure is there, the antennas get attached. As technology changes, those antennas get switched out for newer, more efficient, more effective equipment. But the tower generally stays there. And before putting that new equipment on there, they go and do a structural analysis of the tower to make sure it can support the new equipment.
But there is no known dead zones. No known dead zones in that area, according to your map.
Well, I mean, it basically is showing kind of it's showing spotty coverage outdoors, and so I think the map is showing that there are coverage issues in that area. From an engineer's perspective, I'm not sure if you would say this area is a specific dead zone or not, but what the maps show from the network engineering group is that there are needs for additional data capacity and coverage in that area.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
You said you did notify the school and the school board?
Yeah, we reached out to them to let them know that we were doing this. And in terms of the notice requirements, we provided the information that the city requested, the jurisdiction parish requested in terms of providing notice to adjoining property owners. That's a process that I believe is handled by the department based on the information that we provide in the application form.
And do we have any reference or referrals from them for approval or comments, anything that you received?
From the school board?
From the school board?
No, I mean, they essentially, the people we were in contact with acknowledged the coverage issues there. They said that they were making, parents, I don't know what the internal process was. I know that our understanding was they were making parents aware, but they were sort of just acting essentially as the messengers and not taking any official position one way or another. But they did acknowledge that there are coverage issues at the school, in buildings at the school.
I'm just curious, if however many, I got 12 people, just regular citizens showed up to speak on this, certainly the school board or the school itself would have sent someone to say some type of comment to this. consider.
but they,
They're
they,
there to, you know.
yeah, again, I'm not,
School
our
did just
understanding
take
is
in
that they
what,
were
last
just kind of,
Thursday?
what's that?
And school just took in last Thursday, so, I mean, the noticing requirements are for what? For the zoning is 14 days?
The signs go out 10 days
10
prior
days.
to.
But no, we've got email correspondence with the school officials. They're aware of this. And they're just sort of I think, my understanding is just staying neutral on the application.
They're staying neutral on it. A board of commissioners is staying neutral. No comment, okay. Existing towers, we've had this discussion before where existing towers were not as high as they could be, or outdated equipment was causing lapses in the coverage areas. What is the possibility that infrastructure improvements would increase the efficiency of the existing towers, that this would not be required?
Yeah, so that's always the company's kind of that's the first thing they do, is to try and go improve the equipment on the existing towers, but they get to a point where the data capacity demands in a certain area are at a level that they can't meet the demand from existing towers, even through equipment upgrades or otherwise, and that's what leads to the recommendation from the network engineers that they construct a new tower. It's kind of like, it's almost, in Southeast Louisiana, it's kind of like, it's almost like drainage infrastructure. If you've got, 20 houses, you need a certain amount of drainage infrastructure. If you've got 150 houses, that's a different level of infrastructure. So because of the data demands and the number of people and the number of devices, the existing infrastructure can only support so much, and that leads to the request to invest to build additional infrastructure through a new tower.
If you were to replace the 4 existing towers in this particular area that's shown on your exhibit to a higher and new updated pole, would that eliminate the need for this 5th pole?
No, AT&T has a regular antenna upgrade process, and that's always their sort of first, the path of least resistance for AT&T or any carrier would be to upgrade existing equipment or co-locate on another tower if that could meet the demand. When those options don't work, then they go to construct a new tower, because constructing a new tower is it's more expensive, it takes more time, and it's a more difficult process, it just is, than going and upgrading equipment on an existing tower. So they only do this if it's, they do it a lot because of the increases in demand, but it's not their first choice.
Ms. Unitas?
Okay, well, I'm going and looking at your coverage map. And I'm very familiar with this particular intersection where this tower is going. And I'm looking at your improvement for your in-building area coverage. There's not a whole lot of residences in that area. There's a grocery store, a pharmacy, some storage buildings, the schools. As far as supporting, a larger number of customers, I'm not seeing a huge change to the people who actually live in the area. And looking at your greater map, the area there to the northeast of I-10, it looks like it needs more coverage than building up somewhere here that, according to people in the audience, have adequate AT&T coverage. And people I know that are in the area, when they come through that area, have no issues with coverages and inside buildings, inside their homes. It's not even reaching where there are a lot of homes, the in-building coverage map that you have shown here. I see it hitting a lot of empty space and very few places where it's actually affecting the most customers. So I don't know what models you guys used to establish that as a location. I drove by this location today, and it is a very, very tight little road to get in there for the parents to drop their kids off. And it is right next door to their ball fields. There's just nothing. There's a little chain link fence that separates that property from the ball fields. And that is a concern.
Yeah, I think with respect to coverage, again, this is going to improve both in-building coverage, in-vehicle and outdoor coverage. And so the idea is that they're looking to improve in-building coverage, less drop calls when you're driving, and that's, again, those maps are based on on information from AT&T's network engineering department.
Any other commissioners, questions, comments? Does anyone want to make a motion?
Well, it seems that we are getting these more and more.
We are.
And I've requested before to kind of put a working group together to review this ordinance to see, put together these guys, a comprehensive list of where we at.
I'm going to do that at the end of this meeting.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Second.
We have a motion to deny
Second.
by Mr. Miller, second by Ms. Unitas. Commissioners, discussion? No discussion? Okay, let's cast your votes. Let's use the machine. Motion fails unanimously. I mean, the motion passes unanimously. No, the motion fails unanimously.
You do not get the special use permit.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Conditional use.
Yeah, it was a
I was
motion
going
to
back
deny
to
passed.
what the motion was and what the screen said. I'm sorry. The answer is you do not get the conditional use permit.
Understood. I guess I just want to understand the vote, because the vote's a motion to deny, and,
Correct, that's why I got confused.
okay.
So let's revote to make
Yeah, I
sure
think- I
we
think
get
y'all need
it for
to revote.
clarity. It's also, that's why I got confused also, because the motion was to deny, and you voted no against the
Everybody
motion,
voted no,
which would be
which
two
is-
negatives make a positive.
You're correct, yeah.
So let's revote. I'm sorry, sir.
So that-
I had the
that-
same confusion.
So, just point of order, let me be clear what we've done as point of order. We had a motion to approve, that motion was seconded, motion to deny. The motion was seconded, we voted, the motion failed to the vote. So, in that case, we need another motion.
To deny.
Correct.
I make a substitute motion to deny. Second by Commissioner,
It's correct.
yes.
So that motion failed. Commissioner Scheck-Snyder made a motion to deny, and Commissioner Kluwat seconded it. So once again, it is a motion to deny. A yes vote means no, a no vote means yes.
Well, that's clear as mud.
So if you want to vote against the conditional use permit, you vote yes to this motion. If you want to vote for it, you vote no to this motion. Okay. I hope that was clear. Okay, so now we have it right. It's the motion to deny the conditional use permit passes unanimously. There we go. So, thank you. In response to Mr. Miller's request, which he did make at the last zoning commission meeting, about putting together a working group to look into this particular ordinance, because these are coming before us more often, ahead and create that group, and I'll ask, since Mr. Miller's the one who's been asking for it, I'll make him a member of the group, and Ms. Unitas, a member of the group, and Mr. Scheck-Snyder, a member of the group. Okay, maybe, unless you want, would you like to be on that?
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones?
All right, we'll put Mr. Jones on it. You're off. Jones is on. Okay,
You're off
All
the
right,
team.
real quick, how many people in the group?
3 people in the
Okay,
group.
I just wanted to make sure
It is
we didn't have a quorum.
Miller, Unitas, and Jones.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for looking out for us. Okay, we have a motion to, staff report, I'm sorry.
No staff report.
Okay, now we can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Mr. Scheck-Snyder, second by Mr. Villa. Meeting's adjourned.